Goddesses and gods gather around. Welcome to Mythology and Makeup. I'm Vanessa, and I'm thrilled to share my passion of Greek mythology with you while I get ready for the day. Let's uncover the fascinating stories of mythology together, from Athena's wisdom to the captivating stories of the Muses and everything in between. So grab your brushes and a mirror, and let's unleash the beauty and magic within. Happy Saturday, everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying their day with all the snow. I don't know if you're getting snow, but we are getting snow. So, stay warm. Last week we left off with Icarus, so let's jump right back into it, starting with Pasiphae and Minos. They were the king and queen of Nos on the island of Crete. Pasiphae was the daughter of Helios and a nymph, and Minos was the son of Europa and Zeus. Crete was marked by the existence of the Minotaur, and then the labyrinth was built for the Minotaur by Daedalus, which I mentioned in my last video that we covered Daedalus in my video last week. Minos would send unlucky Athenians into the labyrinth to be eaten by the Minotaur. So after Minos' father died, he became the judge in the underworld. So then there was a fight for who was going to be king next. So Minos and his brother fought to be king. Minos was eager to prove to the Cretian people that he was meant to be and deserved to be their king. He told them that it was determined by the gods that he was their king. And that he should be their king, since he was Zeus's kid and all. So Minos prayed to Poseidon to send him a bull. And this bull, that he would sacrifice this bull as soon as it appeared to him. So Poseidon sent a beautiful bull ready to be sacrificed. But this bull was so impressive in studying that Minos couldn't kill it. Instead, he decided that he would just kill another bull and let the one that Poseidon sent to him live. Because Poseidon wouldn't know. How would Poseidon find out? Yeah? This incredibly offended Poseidon, and as punishment, he cursed Pasiphae to fall in love with the bull. And this was not love, like how we love our dogs and cats and any other pets that we have, No, this was like true love, passionate love, and sexual love. She immediately found herself wanting to have sex with the bull and would literally do anything and everything to make it possible. And so this is where Daedalus comes in. She went to Daedalus and was like, hey, I need you to build me something that I can make it happen to where I can have sex with a bull. Daedalus was eager and excited to prove that he was the best inventor in Greece. So he's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Daedalus created a large wooden cow. He covered it in real cowhide, and it looked very much like a real living cow, but it was completely hollow and empty on the inside. There was just enough room for someone to crawl inside and hide. So you see where this is going. This is going pretty bad. So just as planned, Pasiphae used the wooden cow created by Daedalus to have sex with Poseidon's bull, and she eventually became pregnant with the Minotaur. Minos saw this as a betrayal, so he punished Daedalus for his role in this betrayal. But none of this would have happened if Minos would have just killed the cow that Poseidon gave him in the first place. After all this happened, the bull of Poseidon ravaged the land of Crete, where it became known as the creation bull. It was eventually Heracles who stopped it and brought it to Greece's mainland, where it began ravaging the region of Marathon, where it took the name of the Marathonian bull, which was finally sacrificed by the hero Theseus. Let's get to know the Minotaur a little bit more. So, as soon as the Minotaur was born, everyone immediately realized that he needed to be contained and locked away. He was bloodthirsty. While most half-human creatures in mythology retained the human characteristics, the Minotaur was monstrous and vicious. And normally, with the half-human species, it was the top half of the human and the bottom half of the animal. But for the Minotaur, this was the opposite. So he had the bottom half of the human and the top half of the bull. Sometimes he's shown to only have the head of a bull, but other times he's shown to have the full, from like the waist up, a bull, and then from the waist down, human legs. But he didn't seem to retain any of the human thoughts, feelings, or empathy. He simply was just a monster. Around the time that the labyrinth was built, Minos waged war against Athens and was about to beat Athens horribly. So both cities came to an agreement. Crete would back off, leave Athens alone, if and only if they agreed to send 7 young women and men, so 14 people in total, to Crete every 7 years to be sacrificed to the Minotaur. And Athens agreed. Because, Athens was like, we're getting beat horribly. Let's do it. This was happening every 7 years until Theseus was able to go into that labyrinth and kill the Minotaur. The poor Minotaur. He didn't have any human emotions or anything. But, he couldn't help it. He didn't have a human brain, obviously, because if he did, then he would be the bottom half of a cow and the top half of a human. Now let's learn about Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was from the city of Trice. He was the son of the king, and his mother was a muse. And since his mother was a muse, he was considered to be one of the best musicians and poets to ever live. When he would play his lyre, everyone was taken with his music, and by extension, him. He would catch the attention from everyone by playing just a single note. Orpheus ended up taking part in the quest for the Golden Fleece, accompanying Jason, and using his magical skills whenever he needed. Orpheus went on to marry a beautiful young woman named Eurydice. We don't really know much about her, But what we do know is that he loved her very much, and she also loved him as well. After Orpheus returned home from his voyage with Jason, he settled down and married Eurydice. Shortly after they were married, though, Eurydice was out one day, hanging out with her friends, just chilling with her girls, and next thing you know, she gets bitten by a poisonous snake and died instantly. Orpheus was extremely depressed and overwhelmed by the loss of his love, and that she died so early in their life together. He would find any way that he could to bring her back to him. Orpheus decided that he was going to travel to the underworld to convince the king and queen of the dead to relinquish their hold on her and bring her back to him. Now, this was not an easy thing to do, even if someone was able to get to the underworld. Persephone and Hades were not easily convinced. They're like, this person is dead. Why do I need to? Why? Just leave him here. Once Orpheus reached the underworld, he began to play his lyre. He played a beautiful, calming song that brought the entire underworld to a standstill. The ferryman was charmed into allowing Orpheus to cross the river. Cerberus was lulled to sleep. The whole underworld was so calm that even the torture stopped. And even Persephone and Hades themselves were moved by Orpheus's music, and eventually was like, okay, you can have your wife back on one condition. That when you go back to the underworld, on your way back to the land of the living, you cannot look back. You cannot turn around and look at her. You have to wait until you are both in the land of the living. Orpheus agreed, and so they made their way back. Orpheus wanted to look at her so badly. He just wanted to make sure that it was actually her and that there wasn't a trick being played on him. And that but he refrained from looking and pushed back his urges until he finally saw daylight. As soon as he made it up to the land of the living, he turned to look at his wife. He was standing in the precious daylight, and as he turned, excited to see his wife, but it was too soon. Orpheus had made it free from the underworld, but his wife was only a couple steps away from the daylight. He saw his wife only for a brief second before she was pulled back into the underworld, only able to utter one word, and that was goodbye. After his wife went back to the underworld, Orpheus wandered the wilderness because he knew that the sound of his music would kill anyone that heard it because it was just so sad. So he just decided to wander and not go back to society. Eventually, one day while he was wandering in the wilderness, a group of Dionysus's maenads were in the wilderness as well. And you know how crazy they are. They saw Orpheus and immediately attacked him, ripping him to pieces. And as his head and his lyre floated down the river, it still sang music. But since he was dead, that meant he went to the underworld and that he was once again reunited with his love. Next, we're going to learn about Phaethon. He was the son of the Titan Helios and the nymph Clymene. Helios was the sun god that pulled the chariot across the sky every day. Phaethon had 7 sisters known as the Heliads. Phaethon's name means shining. He was young and boastful, and he would brag to everyone about how important his father was. But everyone found it very hard to believe his claims, and they told him, "You're lying. You're lying, bro. You're lying." Being a teenager is hard enough without your friends refusing to believe you and who your father was. So he felt it was very necessary that he needed to prove to everyone that Helios was his father. And in order to prove that, he needed to speak with his father. So he went to go find his dad. Helios was a busy god. He was like, he had to pull the sun across the sky every single day. He was just, so busy. So when Phaethon went to see Helios, Helios promised him whatever he wanted, all before he was even able to say a single word. Phaethon asked Helios if just one time, Dad, please let me drive the chariot and pull the sun across the sky. Helios was a little bit hesitant because this was incredibly dangerous. Because it's the sun after all, a big hot thing of fire. He's like, son, this is a little dangerous. But he had already promised him whatever he wanted. So he had no choice but to be like, okay, you can pull the chariot. He explained everything to him, about how not to fly too close to the land and, not to fly too high. And he told him all the dangers and how difficult it was to pull across. And he thought this maybe would change his mind, Helios was like, okay, if I tell him all the dangers, he will change his mind and he won't actually want to fly the chariot across the sky. No. Phaethon felt like he could do it and that he would be able to prove to his friends who his father was and everything would be just fine. So he gets into the chariot. After Helios had, was like, son, this is a dangerous game you want to play. He was extremely anxious, but he felt like he had given all the advice and prepared his son as much as he could. Helios smeared some magical sunscreen across his son's face to protect his son from the sun's rays. And with that, he took off, and the sun was pulled closely behind him. At first, it seemed to go pretty well. He was handling it pretty well. He was doing a good job. But it always doesn't go as well. as we hope. But in no time, Phaethon panicked and everything went wrong. He lost control of the chariot completely. The chariot started to fly off course, going one way and the other way and back the other way, and pulling along the sun with it, behind it, and setting half of the earth on fire. The earth burned and burned some more. And the chariot roared out of control, covering a bunch of lands in flames. Finally, Zeus had to step in and was like, what the hell is going on here? And so Zeus threw a thunderbolt at the chariot in order to stop it. This caused Phaethon to fall from the chariot, and he died. He died. Where he landed, his sisters mourned for him, crying for their brother until they were transformed into poplar trees. So I guess he proved that Helios was his dad, but then didn't ever get to, go back and brag about it some more because the little dude died. Poor guy. Okay, so my video just stopped recording. So I got some other lines done on my eyeliner, but let's continue. Oedipus is next. He was the prince of Thebes. His father was King Laius, and his mother was Queen Jocasta. Since he was the prince of Thebes, this meant that he had the curse of the Cadmus and Harmonia. Later, he became the prince of Corinth, and then later the king of Thebes. When Oedipus was born, his father learned that there was a prophecy that one day, when his son was grown, he would kill him. So he decided to leave him outside just to die. But the servant that was sent to do this, just couldn't bring himself to do that. He just could not bring himself to leave a baby out to die. So he gave the baby to a shepherd instead, who would bring him to the city of Corinth, where he was adopted by the king and queen. He grew up just like any other prince would, but there was a rumor that went around saying that he was not truly a blood child of his Corinthian parents. When he got old enough, he traveled to the oracle, where he too learned the prophecy. The prophecy said that one day that he would kill his father and marry his mother. And so he was very disturbed about this. So he decided he was not going to go back to Corinth. He's like, nope. I am not going back there. Marry my mother? Weird. Why would I do something like that? So he's just, walking, wandering. And he gets into like a little bit of road rage with this man in a chariot. And his anger got the best of him. Just, got a little bit of the best of him. And he killed the man. And went on about his day. He just killed the dude and just went on happy about his day. Continued on to his journey, finally coming to the Sphinx. Oedipus couldn't pass until he solved the riddle. He was smart and had a little bit of trouble controlling his anger, but he answered the Sphinx's riddle and was able to pass. The city he entered turned out to be Thebes, and Thebes had been plagued by the Sphinx for quite some time. So when everyone saw him, they were all happy. They're like, oh my goodness, someone got past the Sphinx and it didn't kill them. Oh my God, no way. See, their king had just died, and the Sphinx was also killing everyone. So they were in desperate need for some good news. Oedipus was welcomed by the recently widowed queen, and they got along famously. They would hang out with each other all the time, and eventually they fell in love and got married. They had 4 children together. Oedipus and Jocasta were happy for a long time. But when their children were in their teens, a plague ravaged Thebes. The plagues were controlled by Apollo. So Oedipus sent his brother-in-law to the oracle for some guidance. The oracle had told him that this plague had been because the murderer of the king had not been punished yet. First, Oedipus was like, I have no idea who killed the king. Like, I wasn't even here when the king died. How am I supposed to know who killed the king? And so after some more details of the king's death was given to Oedipus, he realized that he was the one who killed the king. And not only did he realize that he was the one that killed the king, he also realized that he was also the child of Jocasta and Eurydice. So he fulfilled the prophecy that he was afraid of fulfilling and why he left Corinth. He killed his father without knowing, and then he proceeded to marry his mother without even knowing it either. When Jocasta found this out, she just killed herself. She was like, I have been with my son? What? I have been romantically involved with my son for all these years? Gross. And Oedipus eventually gorged out his eyes before he exiled himself. And one of his daughters acted as his guide while he wandered around until he died. I guess you can't get away from the prophecies. He thought he was, gonna do such a great job. It's like, I found this new place. I love the wife that I have. She loves me. But no. No. He fulfilled the prophecy. I'm going to do my other eye off camera, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So, today we learned about a couple of princes and what happens when you try to avoid a prophecy. You just end up doing it anyways. I'm running low on blush. But I hope that everyone enjoyed my video today. And don't forget to leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Leave your guys' opinions down below. But here's the final look. I'm not sure if I really like it or not, but that it is the look for today. Well, thank you guys so much again. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday and the rest of your weekend. Stay safe, and I will see you guys next week with another video. Bye, guys.